Okay, in this video we're going to show you how to move around some layers and transform sizes of images and do a little text examples and some brush examples. Alright, so you have all your layers here. If you watched the last video, these are the layers that we created in the video if you're following along in order, which I recommend to do. Alright, so we have this sunrise picture, this sunrise image, and this little image of the ocean. Alright, but say we wanted this layer here with the rocks on top of everything. Alright, so basically you just highlight the layer and you can just hold down your left mouse button and just bring it up to the top. See how there's two little blue lines? And just let go and it'll bring it up top. Alright, so we want to put it here and just drag it to there. Alright, so it's real simple to move around layers just by dragging, highlighting, dragging, drop. Okay, your transformation tool. Okay, when we brought these images in, when we use the place embedded function, it's going to bring them in as a smart object, okay? And to tell if it's a smart object, it's going to have this little icon right here. Alright, so if we use our move tool, and remember from the last video, the shortcut for that was just the letter V as in victory. You hit your V, move it around. If we want to change the size of this, so another shortcut that you're going to want to learn is Control T. Alright, so if you hit Control T, that's going to bring up your transformation box. Okay, you can also get there by going up to Edit, Transform, Pre-Transform actually, and that will bring it up also. But the keyboard shortcut is Control T. Alright, so since this is a smart object, if we're dragging and making this bigger, you're not going to lose any quality of the image. It's going to keep the same quality. Alright, if it's not a smart object and you make it larger, you're going to lose quality. Alright, so let's say we just rasterize this. It's just a regular layer now, it's not a smart object. If we hit Control T and we drag it up and make it larger, it does lose quality. Okay, so we don't want to do that. So to back out of that, just hit Control Z. Remember, Control Z will undo your last step, and you can hit Control Z again when we switch to a smart object. Switch it back to a smart object. Alright, so say we want to skew this. Alright, you can hit Control T. That'll bring up your transform box. If you right click on there, you can hit skew. Alright, so skew, if you drag on the middle point, it'll move it left and right. Okay, if you drag on the end point, it actually does perspective. Alright, so that's those things. Hit Control Z. You hit Control T to bring up transform again. If you right click, you can go to warp. Okay, and warp, you'll have a bunch of little anchor points here, as you notice these little circles all around. And this is the default warp. You can actually change the grid going up here. And if you change it to a 3x3, it makes 3 rows, 3 columns. Okay, 4x4 will be 4 and 4, and 5x5 will be 5 columns of 5 rows. Alright, when you drag on a point, you can warp things that are in this image. You can also click in the center of the square and move it up. Okay. There's a lot of things that you can do with Warp Tool. just basically just play around with it, get to know it. Once you're done warping, just hit enter or hit this little check mark up here, and that will warp it exactly how you want it. Okay, so we don't want to use that, so we'll hit Control Z. That goes back to where we were before. Hit Control T again. Transform, right click, and you can scale. Right click, you can rotate. You rotate, you see the little arrow changes to a little directional arrow. You can spin it. Okay, now if you hold down Shift and use the rotate, it's going to move it in 15-degree increments. Okay, which is pretty handy. Alright, so say we wanted to rotate this 90 degrees. And click on rotate, hold down your Shift, and just rotate it down. And it's going to go in 15-degree increments, and then it would be on 90. Alright. You can also right click and just hit rotate 90 clockwise, rotate 90 counterclockwise. Okay, you can also flip it horizontally, flip it vertically. Alright, so this is probably a tool that you're going to use a lot of, depending on what you're working on. And it's really handy to know. Control T will get you started, and then you can just right click inside this box and it'll bring up this. Or if you want to do the long way around, go to Edit, Transform, and then whatever you want to do. Okay. Alright, so that's basically the transform tool that you're gonna end up using it quite frequently. Alright, so we'll hit enter, and that saves what we just did. Let's go ahead and do some text. Alright, so text is basically going to work like your Microsoft Word or whatever word processor you use. I always recommend to do a brand new layer for everything that you're going to add to your project. Alright, so if you remember, to add a new layer, you just come down here and hit the plus icon. Alright, so hit your plus icon, and if you come over here, this T is your type tool. Okay, if you hold down your left mouse, it's going to bring up a submenu. You have your horizontal type tool, vertical type mask, and horizontal type mask. Okay, we're just going to start off with horizontal type tool. And click on that, and as you notice, it has this little square. Alright, so you can hold down your left mouse and drag out a text box. Okay, and that's going to bring up your text tool. I'm going to turn this off so we can see a little better. Alright, so you type out your text. You can type any text you want. And what's going to happen, if you keep typing, you can't see the text that you wrote because it went outside of this text box. So a couple different things. You can make the text box larger, or you can hit Control A, select everything, and change the font size smaller. You can do it a couple different ways. You can come up here to the top, and where it says 90 point, you can click this arrow down and change it to small. Okay? You can do it that way. You can also hover over these T's and see how the arrow comes out. If you hold your left mouse and slide to the right or slide to the left, it will make it larger and smaller. Okay? And once you're done with what you want to type, you can just go ahead and hit enter. You can also, you have your text box. You can also line it up on the left, line it up centered, and line it up to the right. You can also change the color. So you want to change this to this orange. or red, or blue, or some weird looking green. Okay, however you want to do it. Okay, so we have it lined up to the right. Let's line it up to the left. You can also warp your text if you hit this. Warp text, you can make an arc. You can change how much it bends. You can change it horizontally. There's so many things you can do with text. You can change it to bulge. You can change it to wave. There are so many things you can do. Alright, so we'll go ahead and hit cancel out of there. Okay, so say we're satisfied with that. We're just going to go ahead and hit enter. And now we notice that there's a big gap in between each line. Alright, so to change that, you can select everything. Go to your character panel. Now, if you don't see this character panel, go up to Window, click on Character, and that's going to bring up the character panel. Alright, I have mine docked over here because I use it a lot. Alright, so there's a bunch of stuff in here. If you go over to this where it says Auto, and you see the little arrow up, that indicates that your line spacing. Alright. So if we change it to 14, that makes it smaller. 24, 36, and same thing here. If you just want to slide it, okay, right about there looks good. Okay, this, you can change spacing between letters. Change to all caps, bold, italic. You can just click on all these different things to get exactly what you want. Alright, and as you notice, when you click on them, it holds it. Okay, so you have to click it twice to undo. Okay. If you want to change your font is right here in your character panel. It is also up here, so you can click on the arrow down. And I have Creative Cloud, so I've loaded up, if you see this icon, this font came off of Adobe Creative Cloud, which you can download fonts for free as long as you have the Creative Cloud plan. So let's say we want to go to a script, or we want to go to Georgia. I mean, you can pick whatever. As you're scrolling down, it's going to show you a preview. And you can actually, if you have a slower machine, like I have an old laptop I use too, but if I have font preview on, then it makes my computer run really slow, but this computer works fine. But you can just scroll up and down, change different fonts. Let's go ahead and we'll put it on. Doesn't really matter. Mongolian Beatty. Perfect. You can change regular. Sometimes your fonts will have different characteristics in here. It might have regular bold, regular italic, bold italic, and so on and so forth. Okay? Alright, so that's that part of it. Say we want to add an outline around that. Let's actually move this down so we can go to our Move tool, which is up here, or the shortcut is V as in Victory. Okay, if you want to put an outline on it, we can do the same way that we did, a border on our images. If we wanted the same thing, we could just hold down our Alt key and drag up. Okay, or if we don't want that, you can left click it and bring it down and trash it. You can double click on the layer to bring up your effects panel, and we can start over. So you can click stroke, let's change it to yellow. Okay. We can do another stroke. Do another stroke. Okay, we can put an outer glow on it. Put a drop shadow. You can bevel it. Bevel and emboss. Let's turn these strokes off. Turn the outer glow off. Okay, you can bevel your type, which looks really cool. You can bevel it, inner bevel, chisel hard, smooth, chisel soft. I like the chisel hard one. Okay, you can contour it. You can add a texture to it. You can make it satin. I'm going to do a whole more in-depth thing on doing styling text, but this gives you the basics. You can mess around with it. Turn your bevel and emboss off. You can lay a gradient overlay over top of it, and we'll put a gradient. Change it to linear, and change the angle. Change the scale of it. That'll get you started. Just mess around with it. Just type out something and just mess around with different fonts and different sizes and different gradients and inner shadows. And just the easiest way to learn is just keep practicing. So click on your inner shadow. Reset it to default and start just messing with these and to show you exactly what happens. So, okay, your inner shadow, if you put the opacity all the way up, it does that. Distance does that. Choke does this. And the size does this. Okay? Just mess around with it. You know, same with inner glow. When you do an effect, whatever you did last, Photoshop keeps in here. So that's why every time I click on something, I always go to reset the default, unless I like what I did last time, and just mess around with it. Okay, color overlay. Say, you know, we had a white and we want to change it. Click on your color overlay, click on your color, and, you know, change it. You can do it that way, or you can just double click on this, change your color, make sure you turn your color overlay off. Okay, pretty simple. Okay, so next we'll go ahead and minorly start off in a gradients. Okay, so gradients, I use gradients a lot on a lot of my sunrise and sunset pictures. Actually, I just use them a lot, period. But let's go ahead and delete some stuff here. This text we're not going to need, so we can just hit trash. Yes. We'll turn this one back on. Alright, so say we want to this orange background, we want to make it a gradient. Alright, so we want it to fade from orange to whatever color here. Alright, so the easiest way to do, let's turn off this. Okay, that makes it transparent. Let's go to this little circle here, left click it, and go up to gradient. Alright, so this will do a gradient of whatever you had loaded last. Alright, so to change that, we're just going to click in this little box. It's going to bring up your gradient editor. Alright, so Photoshop has quite a few already preloaded as presets. So we want this gradient here goes from the foreground color to a transparent, which is this one here. If we wanted to go foreground to background, these are our foreground and background colors here. I will go from black to white. Alright. You can go in here to blues. You can go in your pinks. And there, whatever is loaded up in here, you can just automatically just click on it and it'll put it in there for you. Alright, but if you want to do your own colors, say we want to go our foreground to background color. It's black to white, but that's not what we want exactly. We want to pick out our own colors. If you go down to these little stops here, okay, the bottom ones, if you left click it, it's going to bring up your color box, right? Okay, you can switch it to your background color here, or you can just click on the box and it'll bring your color picker up, and we can pick out that burnt orange that we've been using. Okay, hit OK. Now say we want the top to be the color of the sky. Alright, so we just click on the top part of the gradient, which is this color stop. Click on our color box, come down here to the sky, hit the blue, and hit OK. Once we're finished, we can hit OK here. We can rotate the angle here. You can also type in a number here if you want. Okay, so we'll leave it on 90. Okay, if we wanted to flip it, just hit reverse. Okay, so we have that instead of that, which looks a little bit nicer. Alright, so that is your gradients on linear. You can also do, let's delete this, we'll hit delete on our keyboard. You can also do a gradient as a radial. Okay, so style, let's go to radial. Okay, which is going to be a circle. Let's turn this off. Start over. Okay, so we put in this orange to transparent, but we don't see it because it's small, okay? So go on your scale, slide it up. Okay, it's easier to see, let me just hit OK. It's easier to see if we turn these layers off. Okay, to bring that back, see how it is here. Alright, so we'll double click on it. And you can move these pop-ups out of the way too. Just grab your mouse and hold down left click and move it around to where you want. Alright, so the scale, as you see, 1000% goes to there. Alright, this is 100%. That's what it would look like there. Say we did this orange to transparent and we want to change that, we can just click on that gradient here, change the stop here, actually need to change it to this first. And change it like that. You can change your smoothness. Which actually changes the transition. You can add a point if you click, say we wanted, for whatever reason, white. We want to add another one. Let's put green. Okay, there's so many things that you can do with gradients. Okay. And then once you're done, you can hit OK. Okay, so this gradient, as you notice, if we turn this layer on beneath it, it didn't show anything because this gradient is a color to a color. So it's solid and solid, and it covers up this orange. This covers up this layer. Okay, you can see that this layer is still here, but when you turn on this gradient, it's not. Alright, so you can come up here, go to overlay, and that will change. Basically, the white over the orange made it yellow, and the orange or the black over the orange made it a reddish color. Alright, so leave it on normal. These are your blend modes, and there's a video on blend modes that basically explains a whole bunch of different things that you can do. You can turn the opacity down, and it will start bleeding through. Okay. And to delete, just highlight, click delete, turn these back on. And that's a real quick rundown on